Judith, thank you so much for joining us. So the NEC order that Magashule must apologise or be disciplined, is this them doubling down, determined not to back away from their step aside or be suspended rule?
Good evening, Sally. Well, it certainly does seem as if there is a concerted now effort for the ANC to try and deal with the issue of the step-aside rule. If you remember, I think it was last year you and I had a conversation about this, and ever since then the ANC has been going back and forth, and they really haven't been doing themselves any favours. And so, in a way, what we had a couple of days ago with Ace Magashule being suspended, then him suspending the president, it's all a little bit of a farce or a soap opera, and so it's probably best not to try and comment on the kind of blow-by-blow daily accounts of these matters, but it has now come to an end, for now, and it seems like, and there was a decisive statement now which was made about the Secretary for Secretary General Ace Magashule has to step aside, and I think that is a good thing, but still a distraction from the real work that the ANC has to do.
So Ramaphosa, speaking post the NEC, he says the public spats give the impression of an organisation in crisis. He goes on to say the ANC lives, the ANC leads, but he's also very frank about the problems around the SG. Also, as we heard in that clip, threats against party members, including, and this is really serious, a death threat against the NEC coordinator, I think it's Andries Nel. Do you think, bearing in mind we've got quite a dichotomy, that this is still a functional organisation?
Well, I've said for a long time, Sally, that the ANC is unfit for purpose. It is a vehicle and a vessel into which everything has fallen. And we've seen what's happened in 9 wasted years, where it was unable to hold its president to account, where patronage and corruption ran riot. You only have to switch on the Zondo Commission for a few minutes to hear what's been going on. The ANC has presided over that. So in a sense, this party is tearing itself apart, and at some point one has to ask, and very interestingly, some of the leaked audio recording from last night was former President Thabo Mbeki asking, what is the ANC now? What organisation is it? And I think it is a valid question, because it has lost its purpose. It certainly has lost its intellectual heart. Very little discussion happens around policy. What we only hear about is this factional infighting. And no matter what the president says, no matter what anyone in the ANC says, we, the voters, the citizens of South Africa, understand that this is a party which is not united and which is being torn apart by factionalism and patronage, not unlike many liberation movements of their kind.
So the party, the NEC, did say that they support the work of the State Capture Commission, also that they're going to go on a retreat to try and regain that centre. It's interesting this is happening on the anniversary, the 27th anniversary of the inauguration of Nelson Mandela as our first democratically elected president. Your reflections on the state of the ANC then versus now, and whether it's going to split or renew?
Sally, it's very difficult to understand how the ANC will be able to renew itself, because you have these factions and really this radical economic transformation faction particularly, let's call it that loosely, but a bunch of populists, and people who have dubious records, led by chief praise singer Carl Niehaus. So it really is a motley crew of individuals. And then you have simply put now, the Ramaphosa wing of the ANC, which is a more progressive, social democratic, if one will, part of the party. But at some point, these two parts of the party are now clashing, and all of that is in the public view. It has very real consequences for governance. It has very real consequences for the ANC in future holding on to power. So what I see, though, is that the ANC losing power and gradually losing its grip, as we saw in the 2016 local government elections. And I fear that more of that will happen, support drifting away from the ANC, and that somewhere in our future is a coalition government. We've seen, though, that South Africa is not a very mature democracy, and where we have had coalition governments, it's also resulted in rather haphazard forms of governance. And so certainly for the ANC, a retreat is not going to help it. It's the start, but I really don't hold out any hope that that's going to renew the ANC. One has to be able to take hard decisions, and today was a start, but there's a lot of cleaning up to do, particularly at local government level, where there's still so much patronage.
Yeah. Certainly what Ace Magashule does next is going to be really interesting. He's been fairly defiant up till now. Do you think he'll toe the party line and apologise in public as instructed?
Well, I think he has no choice. He certainly has his back against the wall, and so I expect that he will comply. I think there's been a narrative in the media which has been around this power of Ace Magashule and former President Zuma and rendering the country ungovernable. I'd like to think that we've moved beyond that, and that South Africa really doesn't have the appetite, in my view, for that sort of strongman politics of a Magashule coming out of the shadows. I think that he will find that there's far less support, and certainly the NEC decision shows that, than I think the media narrative has been granting him. And so in a sense he needs to he will be licking his wounds, but it's not the end. Many people have a lot to lose from losing access to their positions, and so this will be a messy and ugly fight. But Sally, we have a local government election coming up in October, and so the ANC will need to play the unity card, and it will need to do so quite strategically, which I think President Ramaphosa is doing.
Thank you so much for chatting to us. Judith February, lawyer, columnist and political analyst from the Wits School of Governance.